Today we're going to talk about Gregor Mendel, his biography, the experiments he did, traits about peace, and the different laws he discovered, the law of dominance, law of segregation, and law of independent assortment.
Gregor Mendel was born in Austria in 1822. As a monk, Mendel discovered the basic principles of heredity through experiments in his monastery's garden. His experiment showed that the inheritance of certain traits in pea plants follows particular patterns, after becoming the foundation of modern genetics and leading to the study of heredity. In 1868, Mendel was selected abbot of the school where he had been teaching for the previous 14 years, and both his resulting administrative duties and his gradually falling eye kept him from continuing any extensive scientific work.
He traveled little during this time and was further isolated from his contemporaries as the result of his public opposition to 1874 taxation law that increased the tax on the monasteries to cover church expenses. Georg Mendel died on January 6, 1884, at the age of 61. Hugo de Vries called currents it independently duplicates Mendel's experiment and results in 1900.
Gregor Mendel decided to study the garden pea as it has a wide array of characters, easy to identify and analyze, and they were quickly to grow. At the time of crossing, he created a method which consisted on cutting the stems of the first plants and sprinkling the pollen of the second plant into the pistil of the second one. Mendel started with plants that bred true, so for example, if he crossed either self-pollinated or cross-pollinated tall plants, they will always be tall. Afterwards, he tried to cross the tall plants with the short ones, and all were tall. Then he crossed the plants obtained on his last experiment, between them getting 75% tall and 25% short. With this result, he made 3 new experiments. The first one consisted on crossing the short ones, the 25%, between them, and discovered these ones were bred true. Then he crossed 1/3 of the tall ones and reached the conclusion these ones were also bred true. To conclude, he crossed the other 2/3 of the tall ones and got the same results as in the initial experiment, 25% short and 75% tall.
Here we have a table in which Gregor Mendel shows some traits or characters about pea plants in order to study them. These traits were related to the color, the form, the place or size of the seed, and the flower pot and the stem of the plants. Yeah, I'm going to talk about the history of how he discovered the law of dominance. So let's get it. While Mendel was crossing his pea plants, he noticed something interesting. When he crossed pure tall plants with pure short plants, all the new pea plants were tall. Similarly, crossing pure yellow-seeded pea plants and pure green-seeded pea plants produced an if one generation of all yellow-seeded pea plants. This shows us that his law was correct. Now I'm going to explain the law of dominance, and it's a Mendelian law which holds that one from the pair of alleles coding for a particular trait will be expressed more than the other, and this type of alleles we call dominant allele. The allele expressed for a particular trait is regarded as the dominant, and the other one, which is unexpressed, is considered recessive. In a cross of parents that are pure for contrasting traits, only one form of the trait will appear in the next generation.
The law of segregation explains how the 25% of the offspring from the F1 generation can have different traits. In this case, they were green. When they were born from parents with the same characteristics, they were yellow. The main discoveries were the recessive trait, in this case, the green color, don't disappear in the F1 generation. The recessive trait is inside the genetic information. The traits are separated from the characteristics of the individual because these the offspring can have different traits of the parents.
For finally, we have the law of independent assortment. Now I'm going to explain it. Alleles for different traits are distributed to sex cells, independently of one another. Mendel's law of independent assortment states that genes do not influence each other with regard to the sorting of alleles into gametes. Mendel concludes that traits are transmitted to offspring independently. The principle of independent assortment describes how different genes independently separate from one another when reproductive cells develop. Also, he discovered that the combination of traits in the offspring of his crosses did not always match the combination of traits in the parental organisms. From his data, he formulated the principle of independent assortment. Independent assortment of genes occurs during meiosis in eukaryotes. During meiosis, the pairs of homologous chromosomes are divided in half to form haploid cells, and this separation or assortment of homologous chromosomes is random. This means that all of the maternal chromosomes will not be separated into one cell, while the all paternal chromosomes are separated into another. Instead, after meiosis occurs, each haploid cell contains a mixture of genes from the organism's mother and father. And another feature of independent assortment is recombination. Recombination occurs during meiosis and is a process that breaks unrecombined pieces of DNA to produce new combinations of genes. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video.